Hello, this is Brynjólfur. I'm going to tell you about a study that was made several years ago about Lake Mývatn and the fluctuations that happen there regularly. Lake Mývatn is a very special lake. It has a high species diversity, which is peculiar since it is located in very high latitude on the globe. On this first slide we see three life forms. We see the fly that the lake is named after, which we call Mý, and it is very abundant there, and the fish and the birds prey on it. Now then we see these green balls, which are algae, and which were discovered in the lake in the 70s and sadly disappeared about 5 years ago. And then we have just one of many bird species that live there called húsönd. Well, more about the lake. It is naturally eutrophic because of the volcanic bedrock that brings chemicals into the water, and then also the water is pretty shallow, only about 1 meter or something like that in average. So, like I said, the populations of birds and flies, they go through these fluctuations approximately every 7 years. And then twice every year this blue-green algae peaks in June and August, which also affects other species there, which we will see. And this blue-green algae seems to be growing with years, and possible explanations for that is anthropogenic eutrophication and climate warming. And this eutrophication could be because of farming, and it could be because of growing population of people around the lake, because of increasing tourism, for instance. And so the lake balls have disappeared, like I said, and hopefully they will come back, but at least the lake is being studied. And here is one study that we are going to talk about, and this study is all about the planktonic communities, which we see on the bottom of the slide. The zooplankton and the phytoplankton, which are at the base of the food chain. And then we have this three-spined stickleback fish who lives on the zooplankton, and the bigger fishes and the birds prey on this stickleback fish. And this little fish is very abundant in the water. So the method of the study was like that. Some cylinders were put into the lake, penetrable, so that water could flow in and out, but in 1 in every 2 of the cylinders this stickleback fish was put, maybe 3, 4, 5 individuals in every cylinder, and they could not move in and out. This went on for 2 or 3 months, and in every 2 weeks samples were gathered, brought to the laboratory and measured plankton size and chemical measurements. The results, the zooplankton size diversity became less and less, and it didn't matter if the stickleback fish was absent or present. Small individuals became dominant, independent of the stickleback being present or absent, which is a little bit strange. So it was at least not affected by the sticklebacks. It must be something else. Then on the lower graph, the phytoplankton size diversity increased, as we can see, at the same time. So this is a little bit special. Let's go to the next slide. Now there is something called PBR, which is predator to prey biomass ratio, which is something that explains how much energy is moved or transported between steps in the food chain, which is being correlated to zooplankton on the left graph. And there's a high correlation, which, if I understand this right, says or tells us that when the zooplankton is, when the size are small or low, or they are little individuals, then the energy is not flowing through the food chain. I think that this graph tells us that. On the right graph, we have also the same biomass ratio before and after the peak of this blue-green algae, which happened 1 month after the study was started. And you can see that also there is a very much decrease in this predator to prey biomass ratio. So the energy is not being transported between the steps in the food chain after the algae has been blooming. All because of this zooplankton being the individuals being so little, it seems. One explanation for that is that the zooplankton individuals are too small to eat the big individuals of the phytoplankton. Well, conclusions. Fish predation and cyanobacteria bloom had negative relationship with size diversity of zooplankton, and low zooplankton diversity related to fish predation reduced trophic transfer efficiency, or this ratio, which is the same thing. Now, both top-down and bottom-up forces significantly influence the size structure of the planktonic communities. I think I've explained, but I will say it once again. It's about the individual sizes in the phytoplankton and zooplankton. Somehow the individuals become smaller in the zooplankton at the same time as the individuals in the phytoplankton become larger and smaller, probably because the size diversity increases. So this is the explanation of this study, or part of the explanation why energy is not being transported between steps in the food chain, and so these fluctuations may be caused by something like this. If you want to read about it, the reference is down there on this slide. Thank you for your attention.